Hello and welcome to the UI mod tutorial video. Before we talk about specific UI mods, I would like to tell you how to download mods in the first place. My client looks a bit different because I'm a member of the Empire clan, but in principle it is still the same as yours. You are looking for a button called Vaults, and this is going to be on the bottom right side for you. And for me it's this button, right? So find this button here, click it, and you're going to have two tabs. One says maps and one says mods. You want to click on mods. And this is your search field. So let's say we are searching for something specific, such as notify, right? And you confirm with server search. And it's actually important that you press this button every time. You can also confirm with enter, but if you confirm with enter, the list you're going to get is going to be incomplete. This is some bug. So make sure to always confirm with server search instead of enter. Alright, this is how you get the complete list, and in this case you have several versions of the same mod, right? Because it has been updated multiple times and there has been some spin-off and so on, right? And if you want to install Notify, you would search for the one that is the most recent version, right? And in this case, if we compare these numbers, it would be version 3.8, right? So if you double click this, it gives you options. And this button says remove mod for me because I already have it. You can tell by the green color of the title. But for you, this is going to say install mod or download mod, right? And this is going to be the button you need to press. And after pressing this button, it instantly downloads the mod and it automatically activates it. So there is nothing you need to do after installing this mod, right? So maybe something important, it says UI mod here, pretty much everywhere next to these notify mods. And UI mods are changing the user interface and changing the way the player inputs commands. So UI mods are going to keep the game ranked, even if not every player in that game has the same UI mod. Because it does not change the game itself, it only changes the user experience when inputting stuff, right? But sim mods are actually going to change the way the stuff that's happening in the game is being simulated, you could say. So they actually influence the gameplay itself rather than just the inputting of commands. And these are mods that the clients have to download when they join the host. And usually they also unrank the game. So if you're looking for UI mods, then make sure that you always download UI mods and not something else, right? So this is all, and now we can continue with the list. So how is this list going to work? Well, it's a top 12 list, and I'm going to start with some smaller mods, and I'm going to conclude with the mods I consider most influential towards my development as a player. So this video is going to be subjective, but you asked for exactly this type of video, so here you go. While I still have your attention, I would like to tell you about the common mod tools. This is very important. It's a package of code that you can install just like any other mod, and you're going to need this to operate some of the mods in this video. So if you do not get this, the other mods will not work. This is why whatever you do, you should first install common mod tools. On position 12, we have the naming mods. And these mods do not have a direct impact on the gameplay itself, but they do change your gameplay experience by giving custom names to your units. And there is NameStuff that names all of your units. There is Veterename that is going to name units that have gotten a rank up in veterancy. And there is Support ACU name tool that is going to name Support ACUs. And you should pick one of these mods and run this one and exclude the other two, because running multiple is not going to make sense. You would have a unit that is first named something, and then you would have another mod that is triggered and it changes the original name of this unit to something else. And there's not much point in having name changing units. You would just want units that have a certain name once, right? So do not run these at the same time. Just pick one. You can, however, customize these. So this is nameunits.lua, which belongs to NameStuff. If you find this file on your computer, then you can change the names in there if you're careful enough not to change the syntax of the mod itself, but you only change the names. And likewise, Veterename and Support ACU name tool are also going to have a file that is going to be in the Lua format, and that is going to be a name list which you can change. Be careful with special characters and with numbers, but otherwise you're going to be fine if you want to change the names in the basic package. On position 11 we have the Support ACU Upgrader, and this does exactly what it says on the tin can. It upgrades all idle, unupgraded Support ACUs while along the combat path, or this button would upgrade those along the tech path. There is a preset that is going to be given by the mod that decides the upgrades of the tech path and the gun path, but if you right click either of those buttons, this window is going to open and you can customize it by faction and by upgrades. So this is for people who are not happy with the presets they are being offered by the standard FAF, and who would like to save some clicks on custom Support ACU upgrades. On position 10 we have NoShake. This mod is going to prevent the camera from shaking. The camera shakes when an ACU dies, a megalith dies, or a nuke hits the ground, or an RD is shooting, and the like. Camera shake is pretty nice for casts, I'd say, when it's about entertainment, but if you're actually playing the game, the shake is going to be annoying. So some buildings you want to have adjacent to other buildings. Sometimes you want to be careful not to select the wrong units in the box selection, and these are situations when the shake is going to be annoying. So this disables it, and I recommend it. On position 9 we have notifications, and not to be confused with notify. Notifications are reminders that are going to pop up under your economic bars, and they remind you of certain things such as your economic balance, or that you may have forgotten to build power storage, anti-nuke and air staging. They also warn you about low ACU HP and the like. And you can customize the trigger events when these notifications appear. You can also customize how large these are, how long they're going to stay on the screen, and how often they re-trigger. You can also add sounds and pings, and overall this mod is very useful for people who aren't extremely focused, like myself. I do not commonly use it when I review replays or when I cast, because this could get annoying, but when I play, then this is certainly useful. On position number 8 there is a similar mod which is called Reveal Positions. This is going to add a small box that says who your opponent is and which faction they play. So if you memorized every player before the start of the game, you would not need this mod at all, because it's not going to provide information you did not have at the beginning of the game. But this is good for people who forget to check out who their opponent is. You can click on those boxes and they're going to disappear if they annoy you, but you can also leave them there for the entire game if you want. On position number 7 we have additional camera stuff, and this is the mod I'm using to display the build range of my engineering units when I hold shift. You need to keep in mind that if you use this mod, the displayed build range through the mod is going to be a tiny bit larger than the actual build range of these units in the game. So try not to be too greedy with your build range, but if you count for this minor imperfection of this mod, then this is going to be a great mod for you. You can also use it to display the attack range of units you're going to move to a certain position very much the same way. I personally do not use this feature, but I can see why some people would want to use it. You also have some options to customize the minimap, like anchor it to a certain position or enable zoom in it and the like. And you can access all the customization options if you open the minimap and then press this little icon. A bit difficult to find, but here's where you access the settings. This mod is very useful, so have fun with it. On position 6, we have a mod that makes flexible eco-management in the late game easier when you have mass fabricators. Sometimes you start an expensive project that consumes a lot of power, and then you would power stall because you have many mass fabricators that are still operating. And this mod is going to automatically deactivate just enough mass fabricators so you do not power stall. It does so by introducing this little box into your interface, and usually you want to use this button. This button is going to add all fabricators you currently have to the selection of this mod, and this mod is going to babysit them for you. As the description over here says, you can also right-click this button, but I do not like right-clicking it, as the piece of code that manages the right-click is kind of badly written, I suppose. This is going to create a repetitive selection sound that is going to trigger whenever this mod adds new fabricators to the selection. And this may make you think that you are selecting units even though you don't. This is why I don't like the right click option, but left clicking this button is fine as long as you remember, right? So definitely use this mod if you play late game a lot. Position 5 we have Notify, and as I explained, this is not the same as notifications. Notify is going to inform your allies about the start of your ACU upgrades, about their completion, and perhaps also about their cancellation. And this is useful if your team wants to balance their economy according to power overflow from teammates. So for example, it may not be very useful if every player upgraded gun at the same time in the early game or RAS at the same time in the mid game. And then it's usually better to let one player go first, perhaps transfer a power generator or two, and when this person is done, the next can start their RAS, and the like. Notify also has some functionality that may be interesting even for 1 versus 1 ladder players. You can namely queue up your upgrades and don't have to wait until one upgrade completes to start the next one, but you can actually put them into a queue just like you would queue up land units in a land factory, for example. And if there are any Phantom players who are watching this, and they may think that the notification of the Notify mod is going to make it easier to identify people as innocents or as Phantoms, then they are totally right. But there is an option to disable this Notify mod even after the start of a game for this single game via a line of code which you put into the chat. So even Phantom players can use this, and if you're interested in the details, you can check this mod out on the forum. On position 4, we have the control group zoom mod. So for those of you who do not know what a control group is, you would select a group of units, and then you would press Control and a number key. This assigns this number to this group of units, and then you can do something else, like give some build commands or select a new group of units. And later on, when you want to select the same group of units from before again, you would simply press the number key you assign to that group, and you have it selected, no matter where those units are on the map. If you double tap that number key, you would focus your camera over these units, and you can immediately micro them, because the camera jumps there, pretty much. Control groups are an essential feature of real-time strategy games, and I would say it is impossible to play real-time strategy competitively without this control group feature. If you want a demonstration, you should watch the micro tutorial, but for now let's focus on what this mod is doing. So your standard issue of FAF, the unmodded version, is already going to have control groups implemented, including the feature that allows you to focus the units on your camera. However, with a standard issue of FAF, there is this huge problem. Namely, the control group is going to zoom in on the units so close, if you double tap that number, that it is almost impossible to micro the units immediately in the context of the battlefield. And you would first have to zoom out after selecting those units. So essentially, this double tapping in number key for the control group is useless in the default FAF APM wise. You can improve the speed of your gameplay by downloading this mod made by Softly. This is going to retain the strategic zoom you had before, and it is no longer going to zoom in on those units. So thank you very much for making this mod, Softly. I requested this mod specifically, and Softly made it, so this is great stuff. Thanks again. And all of you should download it. This is right now unfortunately not available in the mod vault, but you can download it directly from the forum. On position 3 we have the selection deprioritizer, and this is going to make your box selection more sophisticated. Normally, when you draw a box around a mixed group of units, it would select everything in there minus the engineers minus the structures. But Selection Deprioritizer is going to introduce a new category of units, which are the exotic units. These are units which you don't want to have selected together with your other units. For example, when you select your air-to-air weapons, you don't want to select a Mercy with them, because it would get shot down or run out of fuel if it traveled with your interceptors. And for example, you would not want a T3 mobile artillery in your direct fire land unit mix in the same selection, because if that gets close to a point defense and dies, you lost it, even though it could have attacked the enemy over the long range from a safe position, right? So support units are not going to be accidentally selected if you have this mod. Some people do not like using this mod because whenever you draw a box around units, the game actually has to process a piece of code, and it's going to take some milliseconds longer until the selection is fixed than if you did not have this mod. So it is up to you whether you want to use hotkey bindings, such as you draw a box around units and then you select a hotkey for selecting all land units, or selecting all air units, or selecting all naval units, or selecting all direct fire land units, and so on. Or whether you want to be okay with waiting some milliseconds until the selection is accepted and then avoid these complicated hotkey bindings. I personally recommend this mod a lot, especially for people who play micro-intense factions such as Aeon. Position 2 is shared by two different mods that have the same role of improving your map awareness. So on the left side we have the Pilot's Minimap Zoom mod, and this is going to make your minimap appear whenever you're zoomed in close to your base, and it is going to disappear whenever you have a zoomed out, large-scale strategic view perspective. Why does this matter, and why is the minimap not simply always on your screen? Well, the idea is that the appearance and disappearance of your minimap is going to add a dynamic to your interface that actually makes you look at the minimap when you're zoomed in. And I've tested it and it works for me. So I usually forget about my minimap when I have it enabled all the time, but when it spontaneously pops up when I zoom in, I do think that the minimap is more important than otherwise. And this is how I miss incoming units from the opponent less frequently when they are attacking my base while I'm micromanaging engineers in my base or giving build orders. So this is really great for people who have a single screen and they use their minimap for map awareness. On the right hand side we have a mod called UI Party, which is also related to map awareness. Some people seek to improve their map awareness by playing this game on a dual screen setup. They give most of their commands on the left screen and zoom in close to the base and to groups of units. And on the right side, they have the strategic overview, which is going to tell them whether anything is incoming on the radar. That functions very much like a minimap, except it's larger. Some people are going to use the adapter for second monitor option in the video settings to play this game in full screen mode on 2 screens, but I personally often experience crashes when I try to do that. It's not very reliable and stable. So I would recommend to play this game in windowed mode, and if you're on 2 screens, you should drag this window across both screens. And UiParty is going to be the mod that is giving you the most out of your dual screen experience by realigning the interface in a way that some elements are on the left side, some elements are on the right side, and you start in split screen view, which is effectively just like the adapter for second monitor setting minus the crashes. On top of the dual screen stuff, UiParty comes with additional features which you can loosely categorize into speed and control. On the speed side of things, we have an alternate startup sequence which selects your SCU for you and your LAN factory. You can build it right after the ACU spawns on the battlefield, and it makes the startup process a little less stressful. But I can also see why some people don't like to use it, because they don't always open with a LAN factory. Sometimes they build a mass extractor, a power generator, or an air factory first, and then this could be annoying. You can submit a preference to UiParty whether you want your factories to start in repeat mode and whether you want your units to start in groundfire mode. And I think this is pretty useful. On the control side of things, you have vControl. You have this overview that is telling you what you spend your resources on, right? Then there is a log feature. You can log units and prevent their accidental selection for the rest of the game. Plus there are adornments that tell you whether a unit is being built or idle, for example. And there is this unit split feature that allows you to split a large group of units into several small groups of units of the same size and cycle between them, right, in the selection. So I'm using all the features in the speed list, but I'm not using any of the features in the control list. I suppose if I had free hotkeys, I would use the unit split feature, since this seems pretty useful. But everybody can decide on their own which features they want to use, because this mod is highly customizable and highly recommended, especially to people who use a dual screen setup. Last but not least, on position 1 we have EcoManager and Supreme Scoreboard. Let's start with EcoManager on the left side. So this is a comprehensive mod to improve ecoing, and explaining all the functions in detail would probably take too long and it would be inefficient. So it's better if you just read the forum or try it out. It is a highly customizable mod, and if you get lost in all of its features, let me briefly explain what I have enabled and what I have disabled. So I'm using the mass extractor overlay. This is telling me the tech level of a mass extractor from afar, and it's also telling me based on the color of its display whether it's upgrading or not. This sometimes creates a bug on which you see a black box on your screen. If that happens, you would simply identify the mass extractor which is creating this box. You would self-destruct and rebuild it. If this happens, it's annoying, but you know how to fix it now, and it doesn't happen often. And overall, I think this is a pretty good deal, getting this overlay. And I'm also using the on-click upgrade, so when I select a single max, it automatically upgrades to the next tech level. T2 maxes only upgrade to the next tech level if they are linked with mass storages though. And this on-click upgrade is useful for people who want to save clicks and for people who don't accidentally click on things they don't want to click on. So of course, if you frequently click on maxes you don't want to upgrade, then this is going to upgrade them automatically, and this may stall your eco if you don't notice. So you need to be a little careful and form a good habit, but I think this is useful. And the features I have disabled are the power throttle and the auto upgrading of mass extractors. These make it difficult to prioritize your eco, because sometimes low priority projects are automatically prioritized by the power throttle, and automatically upgrading mass extractors and all features related to that may make it difficult for you to control which extractors are upgrading, and sometimes the ones at the front are upgrading and the ones in the back are on lower tech levels, which of course makes no sense. On the right side we have Supreme Scoreboard. The first feature is sharing, but I suppose before we start that, let me add something about the EcoManager, which I forgot on this list. So EcoManager also has a sharing option. So if you frequently overflow mass and power and your storages are full, then your teammates may have empty storages, and EcoManager has this automatic sharing function that is going to give your power and mass, if you're overflowing, to the teammate who's going to need it the most in this situation, right? And I am not personally using this feature because I don't frequently overflow mass and power in team games, but I guess it is useful for people who do. So decide yourself whether you want to use it. But now let us continue with Supreme Scoreboard. So the sharing feature of Supreme Scoreboard works via the scoreboard, and you will click next to a player, and this is going to allow you to share all selected units, or 50% of your mass and 50% of your power. And it also adds a notification into the chat so that the teammates are going to know that you transferred the mass, the power, or the units. So very useful. And on top of that, you have some additional features. It shows your game settings, for example, whether the game is ranked or not. In the scoreboard, it also highlights the teams, and if you play with score on, it is going to add up the scores for the teams, so you can see where your team is standing precisely compared to the opponent's team. And in replays, of course, there are extra features. You can see how many air units there are, for example, and the like, to tell which team has air superiority and so on. So this is going to be very interesting for casters especially. But there is a small issue with Supreme Scoreboard. So with the selection deprioritizer and the UI party, I have identified some compatibility issues that make the game crash. So you would not use Supreme Scoreboard with either selection deprioritizer or UI party. And to be honest, I don't know precisely which of the two mods is causing that. It may be both, or it's just one of them. But just to be safe, I would avoid using Supreme Scoreboard together with Selection Deprioritizer and UI Party. There used to be a compatibility conflict between EcoManager and Supreme Scoreboard, but this has been fixed now. So for those of you who have not been using these mods together because you thought that they are conflicting, this is no longer the case. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope you enjoyed my UI mod list, and I hope you can now assemble your personal UI mod starter kit. Please do not forget common mod tools, or some of the mods will not work for you. Good luck, have fun trying those out. And if there are some mods in my point of view gameplay that are not featured in this video, it is either because I will mention them later in another video, or because they are not public. For example, the mod that adds the Empire clan logo to our starting position is not publicly available. This is only for members of the Empire clan. And lastly, I would like to tell you that I am not your tech support, so if you have trouble making these mods work for you, then I am not the right guy to ask, because I could not help you with that. Please open a thread on the forum in the tech support section, but first you would search whether somebody else had the same problem before you and whether their fix also works for you. So thank you very much, and see you next time.